it seemed only right, given that this really is the home of brewing. It made sense to go and visit a pub, and so we did. We went to the Burton Bridge Brewery, where Jeff Mumford, the boss, showed me around. Take a look at this.
Well, I don't know if you know about what happens malting-wise. It comes off the fields. It's a specific, for want of a better expression, breed of barley.
Yep.
That's for the brewing and the malting industry. And its important aspects are low in nitrogen. The other aspect is a fairly even grain size.
Yep.
Give it a taste.
Yeah.
It'll remind you of something.
Oh, yeah. Good, isn't it?
Yeah. We've milled the malt.
Yep.
We've transferred it up into this grist case, which then transfers it to what's called a mash tun, where it's mixed with water at 70 degrees centigrade, and it's got a false bottom full of holes, a strainer plate, and we leave it in there for an hour and a half. Temperature's important, 70 degrees C, so after an hour and a half we raise the temperature and spray much hotter water on the top of the mash and drain the sugars off the bottom. And we pump that up into this vessel, referred to as a copper. It gets up to boiling in about 25 minutes.
Okay.
And we boil it for an hour.
Really?
And we add hops. It's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when we pump it into these utility vessels, fairly utility vessels, and we add the last ingredient, which is yeast. It's fermenting probably about 5 days, depending on how strong the beer is.
Wow.
Stronger beers take longer.
Right.
Because there are more sugars to be consumed.
Yeah.
And the yeast multiplies considerably. And at the end of that, we cool it down to 8 degrees centigrade and pump this cloudy beer through to what we call the racking tank and rack it into casks. It goes into store, and we like to keep it for a week.
Well, Jeff, thanks for the tour, and cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, it's very good. I think there's some chance we won't be broadcasting at 7 o'clock tonight. I might just stay here. Well, I'm joined by Jeff Mumford, co-director of the Burton Bridge Brewery. Jeff, thanks for the tour around there earlier. It did taste delicious, but we made it.
Yeah, I've decided not to pursue a career in television.
Oh, I don't know. What was it about this town that made it, for centuries, the home of brewing?
Well, effectively, it was the water. Burton sits on a bowl of gypsum, and it's the water percolating through the gypsum, picking up hardness, and that hardness in the water gave, when the hops were boiled,
yeah,
gave much finer taste than the softer waters in the London area, and that was basically the start of it. At the turn of the last century, there were 9 breweries in Burton, and they were from far flung as well. In Coop, which is down Station Street, originally its brewery was Romford in Essex, but there was such a call for Burton beers, they built a brewery in Burton, and so did Robinson's of Stockport. And
so this really was the Mecca?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, until some clever person worked out how you could put those essential salts into tap water, and they all slowly moved away and brewed their what were known as pale ales,
yeah,
in their own particular breweries. Yeah.
Now, you went out on your own with your partner 40 years ago,
yeah,
to be an independent brewer.
Yeah.
You've had a good run of it. You've been up to 6 pubs that you've owned in the area. You've had a very good run at it, but goodness me, things for the pub trade right at the moment, very tough.
Oh, they are, yes. It's probably the toughest period we've experienced. And people have just stopped going out. or some of the people have stopped going out. And pub trade is, most pubs are trading at about half the capacity they did before.
And the pandemic simply changed people's habits.
It did, yeah. Well, I think there was an element of also when your wife's been getting packs of beer from the supermarket while during the lockdowns, and you want to step out and go to the pub, she suddenly say, "What was wrong with the stuff you've been drinking for the last 3 months?"
Yeah, and of course, price, that's a huge problem, isn't it? Because you can buy bulk beer at certain big supermarket chains very, very cheaply.
Yeah.
It is sad what's happening to our pubs. But with it, the brewing industry is adapting. I mean, you're selling, casks that people can have delivered to their houses. Is the brewing industry okay?
Not really.
No.
The brewing industry in the last 40 years has become more of a cottage industry.
What, little microbreweries?
Yes.
Yeah.
When we started, we were the only small brewery in Staffordshire. There are now over 30. And the strange thing is, pubs are closing and people are opening breweries as fast as pubs are closing.
It's funny, isn't it?
And it doesn't make sense. But a lot of it is that, 40, 50 years ago, men used to dream of having their own pub. Now they dream of having their own brewery.
Now, you've had a long career in the brewing industry. You said to me earlier what fun it had been to be in brewing. And for those that don't realise this, in the old days, there used to be wet breweries. You were allowed to drink on the job, weren't you?
Oh, yes. Well, we had wet canteens, which were bars. Yeah. Wet canteens and dry canteens. And you were given tokens to hand in to get your beer in the wet canteen, and they became like illegal currency. I mean, some of them would climb the brewery chimney up the inside for a bluey.
Amazing stuff. Jeff Mumford, thanks for the tour today. Thanks for talking to us about brewing in Burton.